Hi, I'm Ian, and welcome to Executive Grooves. Today, my guest is Bianca Molloy, Joint Managing Director of TES2000, which is a rail infrastructure company operating in Colchester and does work for Network Rail. I think you're going to love this session. We talk about Bianca coming into a leadership role as a female in a male-dominated world, as a young female. And she talks about her experience of that journey and some of the challenges that she has with neurodiversity. And she talks about her leadership style. Let's just crack on with it. Here's Bianca. So good morning, Bianca. Welcome to Executive Grooves. So I'd like to start by rewinding our tape a little bit and talk about the music that you used to listen to when you were a teenager.
It ranged from R&B to Kistry to some emo, so Blink-182, Sum 41. My dad loved Thin Lizzy, so we listened to a lot of that in the car with him.
So how did that teenager listening to that sort of music end up as joint managing director of a rail infrastructure business?
It's been a journey, and I think the diverse perspectives I have on music shows in how I approach life as well. Because having grown up the way I have in moving to different countries, I have always gone into things with a very open mind. I've been able to adapt a lot quicker. And I think it shows that you can't take a one fits all approach. You have to roll with the times, and like the way music makes you feel differently in different moments. That's life as well, and it's okay to have all the feelings and take all of the steps towards, I guess, where you're meant to be, because I genuinely believe you'll end up where you're meant to be.
So tell us a little bit more about what the role of joint managing director entails.
It feels like it entails everything. It's a really interesting role because you're able to embed yourself in all parts of the business. So it is sometimes it feels like a jack of all trades. You have to be a true generalist, wear multiple hats in one day. But it's also, you have to be a strong leader to be able to own a room, own a conversation, and be that stability that the teams need when they come to you to ask questions.
What challenges does that place on you as an individual?
A challenge that I face personally is being young and being female and being non-operational in the role. So there's an unconscious bias, and I can feel it when I walk into a room or I'm in a meeting. And it takes me a bit of time to show that I deserve to be there. And I've got the speech to a T. How did you become the MD? Why are you in the room? What value do you bring? And they're all questions that I don't think other people are asked. But I do feel I can hold my own now, and I do deserve to be there. But it is a challenge, because people tend to not gravitate towards you when having a conversation, and they underestimate you. So, yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about the size or the scale of the business, and time to talk about the name of the business?
So the business is TES2000. TES2000 has been around for over 30 years. Still a family-run business. We sponsor around 500 staff, and it's a different distinction because we've got sponsorship and different employment types given the industry that we work in, which is rail. We're a safety critical business, and we provide very specialist labour to Network Rail and Tier 1 contractors.
You came from an HR background, didn't you?
I did, yes.
How did you learn about how to transition from becoming an HR professional, an HR leader, into actually leading a business? What was that journey?
it just naturally happened. It's not something that was like, right, this is it, I'm going for it. I wanted the team to go on the journey with me so that everyone felt, actually, do you know what, this is the right move. We respect being in the role, and this is the right thing for the business. So we all went through this journey for the last 12 months. And then I approached Tony and I said, right, I think I'm ready to step up and take on some of the reins. And then that's what we agreed in August this year.
Wow. So you mentioned earlier that you're young, you're female, you're in an industry that to the outsider might look quite male dominated. Which of those was the most difficult challenge to overcome?
I think the female, the female side of it, because I'm also quiet, to some, and I approach things differently. So Tony, who is the other joint MD and owner of the business, is very different. We couldn't be more opposite in our approaches to leadership. And initially, when people would first come to me and they'd be really angry, they're just shouting at me, I never raised to that level. And I'd always try and bring them down again, and I'd always remain calm. And initially, people took that as I didn't care. And it was trying to, I guess, show their vulnerability and show people that actually I do care, but I'm not a shouter. I'm not going to do that to someone. I also don't swear, which they find really, really bizarre, but I don't. So it's those little things that took a bit of time for people to accept. And even when I go into new groups, it does take them time to understand how different I am, and the approach that I take is very different.
So not only is that a challenge for you, that must make an impact on the entire business, because it is a male-dominated business, and if you're leading with that particular style, there must be an impact. Do you gauge that there is an impact?
I think I do get the feedback, and I think a lot of people have said it's helped them emotionally regulate and understand that some decisions that they've made in the past are emotionally charged and might not have been the best for the business. A lot of people will now come to me first and maybe do a role play if they're really angry with a client and they're like, this is what I want to say. And I'm like, okay, what's the different perspective? How do you think they're feeling if we were managing it? And I think broadening people's mindsets on their version of reality and what might be happening around them has definitely changed the business. And I think we did a manager training session on perception versus perspective, and that I've seen a massive change in the managers since that session, because I can see they're now trying to think from the other side, or understand maybe a member of staff has lied for a reason, but it's still a lie, but what is it? Try and find the root reason as to why people do what they do.
Interesting. And do you gauge that your approach to all these things is actually bringing tangible success?
I think it's helping us build stronger relationships, which I do think is improving the performance definitely in some areas. And we have a client who manages us against the contract, so I can't actually say that they're doing anything wrong, but it has been incredibly difficult. And an approach that was taken a few years ago was, to fight them back and to pull them up on what they're not doing well. And we changed the approach probably 18 months ago, and it was like, find out why they're managing us the way they are. If we were the client and we were managing against a contract, and it's educating the managers on don't sign something unless you fully understand it. I think there's definitely been an improved performance in that side of things, because just contract management, client liaising, even engaging with staff, it's improved retention. So rather than just saying, I don't want to use them anymore, it's like, okay, bring them in for a conversation. Why did they not turn up to work? What is going on in their life? Just humanize your approach to your operational teams. And I think that's had a good impact on performance.
Wow. So basically the human side, and I know you're very strong on neurodiversity.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a bit more about that.
So I've been diagnosed with autism and ADHD. So I know I'm different, but it's nice. For me, it's nice to have the label to actually understand where those differences come from. And in going through the assessment process, I did a lot of research, and I really wanted to understand what neurodivergent minds look like, and where I struggled, what could I put in place to ensure that people didn't struggle in the same way. And we have adopted different approaches within TES, like the way we interview people, even our investigation process is slightly different. Our communication style, we've tried to move towards more common language, so it's actually understood rather than overly formal or elevated. And I think it's not just neurodivergent individuals, it's just inclusive in all areas of the business. But obviously, raising awareness about neurodiversity is a passion of mine personally. And that's why I sit with the rail industry Neuroinclusive community as the secretary. And I sit with them once a week. We have formal meetings every 2 months, and it is about raising awareness within the industry and holding people accountable for any ignorance.
So you're young, you're female, you're working in a male-dominated environment. Perhaps you could talk us through some of the things that you feel are setbacks, difficulties.
One of the things I do struggle with is the socializing, and it's a norm. There's clubs that get set up, and it's you'll go to an event and everyone wants to go to the pub afterwards, and that's not something that I find natural for me. And I really, really struggle with it. It becomes a sort of fight or flight response for me. I just can't do it. There's also when I'm going somewhere new that I haven't been before, and I'm going on my own, that can be quite scary for me. And like my brain logically knows I'm okay, but it's like my body's like, no, you're going to war. You need to have a panic attack. You need to just not go. And it's only held me back probably twice in the last 9 years I've been at TES. But it is an ongoing challenge. My team do know about it, so I do get phone calls on the way in, like, "Have you made it into the car?" I was like, "I'm in the car. I've done my steps. I've made it there. I'm gonna get there." And what I've tried to do is be more vocal about it. So, like talking to you today, it is scary, and I never know if one day it's gonna harm my chances of finding other employment in the future, maybe. But it's I think if I don't advocate for it and I don't advocate for myself, then I'm just going to continue to put myself in difficult situations where I have the panic attacks, I feel incredibly overwhelmed, and then I have a shutdown, and then that's no help to anyone. So I do ask for adjustments, and it might be things like I'm going to an event and I'm incredibly nervous about where to park. And I ask them to hold me a space, and they do.
If you have one lesson that you could look back on, what would it be?
That I don't need to be perfect, so I don't need to know all of the answers. Um, and what because that is a big thing for me, being perfect. I don't know if it's a neurodivergent thing or just who I am. And when I get something wrong or I'm not able to give someone an answer that they need then and there, that used to really upset me. But as I've progressed from the head of HR to the people director to the now joint managing director, I've realized I don't need to be the person that knows every single person's job. I don't need to be an expert in what everyone does. I just need to be able to ask the right questions and be able to give them opportunities, like you say, to grow and lead in their own way. So that was really hard for me not to be able to do what they do. But I realized that I'm that catalyst to improve the people around me, which will naturally lift up the business. Healthy conflict. So I don't really enjoy conflict. I mean, I don't know who does, but actually I like it when people disagree with me. I want them to push back because I think that's where I've seen more creativity. And I've seen teams move from forming to storming to performing. And it's that storming phase where everyone's feeling really anxious. But actually, when you come out of it, the bonds are so much stronger and the team works so much better together. And you can see that the relationships have changed, but they needed to go through it. I like being challenged. I like a debate. But I also like facts. So a question that I regularly ask is, do you know? Like, do you think or do you know? So is this something that you've thought up all on your own, or have you done the research? Have you checked the standards? Have you gone and actually found out what we should be doing?
If you could sit down with your teenage self that
Hmm.
we started this with and give them one piece of advice, what would it be?
Just be you, because there will come a time where people will appreciate it and you'll be valued for it, and people will be inspired by the fact that you can just be yourself. So yeah, just be yourself.
What music do you like to listen to at the end of the day to unwind?
Uh, it depends on the day I've had. So for me, music is really emotive. It helps me regulate, maybe reconnect. If I am trying to work through something in my brain, I use 8D music. It's a type of music that creates a sort of 3D effect. So the music bounces from ear to ear. And for me, it kind of calms my brain down, because if I've got, the way I describe it is, there's all these things up in the air, and when I'm having a good day, I can pull it down, I can prioritize it, I can get through what I need to do. But if it's a really high pressure day and there's a lot going on and it's become a really um, emotive day, then it's a little bit more difficult. Whereas listening to that and it just helps regulate, and then I can pull things down. But it's got to be no lyrics, literally just music bouncing ear to ear. But if I've had a good day, then I listen to R&B or dance hall. But if I've had a tough day and I'm feeling a little bit sad, then my favourite album are the Mamma Mia albums, because I love ABBA. That is a
Wow.
secret, Ian, that's a secret. I love ABBA and I love the movies. They're my favourite movies. I watch them constantly, and it just makes me feel happy.
Well, lovely to meet you, Bianca. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for participating in Executive Grooves.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to me.
Wow, I found that really interesting. Thank you so much to Bianca for being so honest and giving us a reflection on her journey and some of the challenges she faced, and a really personal insight as well. So I'm sure our listeners will enjoy it as much as I did. And for now, that's a wrap. I'm Ian, and this is Executive Grooves.